Hi and welcome. My name is Craig and I've been studying mental health, alcoholism and addiction for the last 13 years, using the best case studies I could find. Me and a few of my friends. So this is the last video of the first set that I'm doing. Make sure you like and subscribe, the button's down there, to make sure that you don't miss out when I start posting the new videos. Hopefully I have my audio issues sorted out now. And as always, if you find these videos interesting, please share them. If you're after some short videos on mental health, addiction and recovery, follow my 1 Minute That Can Change Your Life series on TikTok. They'll probably be on Instagram and Facebook as well, all under my name, Craig A. Field. Alrighty, when I'm speaking with other alcoholics, I'll usually introduce myself. I'll say something like, "Hi, I'm Craig and I'm an alcoholic. I have also been diagnosed with severe depression, general anxiety disorder and complex PTSD. And I've gone into that in other videos if you'd like to know more. However, today I'd like to begin with a simple idea. This isn't a talk about addiction or alcoholism. It isn't a talk about depression. It's about life, because whether we admit it or not, every one of us is carrying something. For some, it's grief. For others, anxiety. A relationship that ended, a career that didn't work out, the loss of someone we love, a childhood we wish we'd never experienced, or simply the quiet weight of expectations that we place on ourselves every day. Or, if you're like me, perhaps it's a little of all of the above. Pain doesn't discriminate. It doesn't care how successful you are, how much money you have, or how confident you appear. It finds us all. Yet from an early age, we're taught that life should be comfortable, that happiness is the destination, that if we work hard enough, earn enough, achieve enough, or love enough, we'll eventually arrive at a place where pain no longer exists. So when life hurts, as it inevitably does, we assume something has gone wrong. We tell ourselves we should be coping better. We compare ourselves to everyone else's highlight reel. We wonder why everyone else seems to have it figured out. But what if we've been chasing the wrong goal? What if the purpose of life isn't to eliminate pain? What if that's impossible? What if the Buddhists amongst us have it right and pain can't be eliminated? And what if believing we should be pain-free is actually what causes so much of our suffering? I've spent years asking myself those questions, not as an academic, not as a psychologist, but as someone who's lived them. Just an ordinary bloke living an almost everyday life. You see, I've discovered something that has changed the way I see the world. Pain is unavoidable. Suffering isn't always. There is a profound difference between experiencing pain and allowing pain to define who we are. We often spend enormous amounts of energy fighting reality. We say, this shouldn't have happened. I shouldn't feel this way. I should be stronger. Stop shoulding on yourself. Life doesn't ask our permission before it changes. It simply changes. The challenge isn't deciding whether we'll experience pain. The challenge is deciding how we'll respond when we do. Perhaps resilience isn't about becoming invincible. Perhaps courage isn't about pretending we're okay. Perhaps strength isn't about never falling apart. Perhaps real strength is learning to keep living, loving, contributing and hoping, even while carrying pain. To live well alongside it. That idea has transformed my life, not because it made life's difficulties disappear, but because it stopped me from believing that my worth depended on being free from them. Previously and over the next few minutes, I have and will share some of my story. There has been and will be more moments of darkness. There will be mistakes and consequences. There will also be hope. Because this isn't a story about someone who conquered pain. It's about someone who discovered that life doesn't begin when pain ends. Life happens while we're living it. If you've ever met me at one of my mental health first aid courses, or even if you're looking at me for the first time today, you might assume that I've always been comfortable talking about mental health. And the truth is I wasn't. I still struggle with it from time to time. I had to write a script for all of these videos and keep to it. I read it nearly word for word, both to keep me on track and on subject without digressing, or these videos would go for hours. There's been many revisions, nearly a year of research and writing that went into these videos. So it doesn't just happen, not for me anyway. And I've had lots of practice at meetings speaking in front of groups. But for years, I became very good at wearing masks. Fake it till you make it. I wore a mask that said I'm fine. The mask that smiled when I wanted to disappear. The mask that convinced everyone around me that I had everything under control. I suspect I'm not alone. I know I'm not alone. We live in a world that rewards the appearance of strength. When someone asks, "How are you?" the expected answer isn't the honest one. It's good, busy, can't complain. We become experts at hiding, not because we're dishonest, but because we're afraid. Afraid of being judged, afraid of being seen differently, afraid that if people knew what was really happening inside us, they might walk away. So we carry our struggles quietly. We convince ourselves that everyone else is coping better, that everyone else has life figured out. But I've learned something on my journey through this thing we call life. Almost everyone is carrying something. The colleague who never stops working, the friend who's always making everyone laugh, the parents who seem to have everything organised, the neighbour who always greets you with a smile. We don't know the battles they're fighting when no one is watching. We don't see what's going on behind closed doors. And they don't know our story. For a long time, I believed that asking for help meant admitting defeat. I thought strength meant handling everything on my own. I couldn't have been more wrong. Because isolation gives pain room to grow. Silence feeds shame. And shame convinces us that we're the only ones who feel the way we do. One of the greatest gifts we can give another human being isn't advice. It isn't having perfect words. It's creating a space where they no longer have to pretend, where they can take off the mask, where they can simply be honest. I've come to believe that vulnerability isn't the opposite of strength. It is one of its purest forms. Every meaningful connection I've made has started with honesty, not perfection, not having all the answers, just honesty. My own journey didn't change because one day I suddenly became stronger than my struggles. It changed because little by little I stopped pretending they weren't there. The abuse I endured as a child, the bullying, the various traumatic events that I've witnessed throughout my entire life, the grief, the overwhelming depressive states, the panic attacks and anxiety, the addiction and all the pain that brought, they were all there, they were all real. And then I stopped trying to outrun them all, every painful part of my life. Instead, I began asking a different question. Not how do I make this disappear, but how do I keep living a meaningful life when this is part of my story? That changes everything. It doesn't remove the pain, but it did give me direction. And sometimes that's enough to take the next step. My journey took me to places I never imagined it would. Some of those places were dark. The depressive thoughts and suicidal ideation was not fun. The nights spent in lockup and days hiding from debt collectors as a direct result of my choices and behaviour while under the influence. Others came from experiences beyond my control and my childhood, but every one of them has taught me the same lesson. Life isn't about waiting until we're healed before we begin living. It's about learning to live, even while we're healing. I've spoken today about pain, not because I believe pain is the most important part of life, but because I believe our relationship with pain shapes the life we live. There was a time when I thought my life would only begin when I had fixed everything, when the depression was gone, when the anxiety disappeared, when the memories stopped hurting, when I no longer felt the pull of addiction. I kept waiting for the day that I'd finally be able to say I'm okay. But that day never came. Instead, something far more important happened. I stopped waiting. I realised that life wasn't happening somewhere in the future. It was happening now, in the middle of the uncertainty, in the middle of the setbacks, in the middle of the healing. That's when I stopped asking, when will this be over? And I started asking, how do I live just for today? That question didn't erase the difficult days. I still have them. I still live with depression. I still live with anxiety. I still live with complex PTSD. There are still mornings when getting out of bed takes more effort than anybody else can see, even my own partner. There are still moments when old thoughts and old feelings return. The difference is they no longer get to decide who I am. They are part of my life. They are not my identity. But importantly, today, I am okay. I am no longer a slave to my mental health or my alcoholism. I am living the best life I can live. I am reaping the rewards of years of therapy and counselling, and I'm not just okay, I am happy. I like the guy that looks back at me from the mirror. Maybe one day I'll get to love him. Over the years, I've learned something else. Pain has a strange way of connecting us. The details of our stories may be different, but the emotions are often the same. Loss, fear, loneliness, shame, hope, love. Every person you meet knows at least one of those intimately, which is why kindness matters, why listening matters, why checking in with someone matters. You never know what another person is carrying. And sometimes the smallest act of compassion becomes the moment someone remembers they don't have to carry it alone. People ask me what the most important mental health first aid skill is, and they expect me to talk about recognising signs and symptoms, or knowing what to say, or understanding mental illnesses. Those things matter, but if I had to choose one thing, it would be this. Be willing to show up. Sit beside someone, and listen without judgment. Resist the urge to fix them. Remind them that they don't have to face life alone. Sometimes that conversation won't change their day. Sometimes it might change their life. And perhaps you'll discover that it changes yours as well. I want to leave you with one final thought. Every one of us is living with something. Some burdens are visible, most are not. We can spend our lives fighting the reality that pain exists, or we can accept that being human means experiencing joy and heartbreak, triumph and failure, certainty and doubt. The goal isn't to eliminate pain. The goal is to refuse to let pain eliminate the life we are capable of living. So if you're carrying something today, know this. You don't have to wait until you're completely healed before you deserve happiness. You don't have to become a different person before your life has meaning. You don't have to earn the right to hope. Life is happening now, not after the pain, not beyond the struggle, not once everything is perfect, now. So live it. Love deeply. Ask for help when you need it. Offer help when you can. Be kind to others and especially to yourself. And remember this, we don't become stronger because life becomes easier. We become stronger because we learn that even with all life asks us to carry, we can still choose to live. Not despite it, but with it. Thank you, and remember the first step in overcoming mental health stigma is talking about it, and together we can make a difference. If you found these videos interesting, please like, share and subscribe, and make sure you follow my 1 Minute That Could Change a Life series on TikTok. Who knows, the life it changes may be yours. Thank you. Good night.